Welcome to Undercomplicating Stuff, where we, two psychologists and coaches with over 40 years of combined experience, share our insights to help undercomplicate important topics. A friendly reminder that this video is meant for conversational and entertainment purposes only. Please see the information section of this video for additional resources. So I'm Dr. Julie Radico. I am a psychologist, a coach, an author, and a speaker, and I'm here with Dr. Gedeon.
Hi, Stacey Gedeon. I'm a health psychologist and the founder and CEO of a healthcare consulting and professional coaching business. And our question today has to do with what happens when we have ruptures in our friendships. And it's something that comes up all the time, not only in who we work with, but I know I've experienced it before. And we really want to kind of talk about what you can do when there is a rupture, some strategies, and also to normalize that these things happen. So, when we're talking about a rupture, what we mean is really a moment or a pattern in a relationship, in a friendship, what we're talking about today that damages trust or safety or connection, that may be hurtful and something that really just kind of stings. And sometimes you don't know what to do with that, particularly if you have friendships that are pretty copacetic. There isn't a whole lot of conflict. There's a lot of agreement, and then boom, something comes up. And I'm wondering, Julie, what you think would be some steps to even start to address this.
It's so hard when we experience a rupture because oftentimes it's unexpected and it's something that we don't want to have happened, right? Like you care about the other person or other persons because you could have ruptures in like a friend group or, like this can get really complex and layered. I think it's really important to check in with how you're feeling and just making sure you are safe and feeling like you're okay in the way of like taking care of yourself, of saying, like, okay, I'm feeling a lot of stuff. I'm really maybe feeling hurt, upset, confused, and giving yourself space to sit with those feelings, to reach out to others for support, but to let yourself feel all the things that you're feeling in a safe way. So you don't have to do that alone, and I'm mindful that if you have a rupture with one friend and say they are connected to other friends that you have mutual friends, that you reaching out to the other, other people for support isn't necessarily us saying, oh, go complain about that person to other people or say, oh, I'm right, I'm justified. I mean, you might be, but the heart of what you really want to do here is to give yourself space to react in a safe kind of way, to get the support that you need as you're just processing what just happened. Where are we? And then you might want to bridge to having like a conversation or trying to have some outreach, but in a thoughtful way. Because one of the things that we don't want to do is when there's been a rupture, whether it's like somebody's telling you right then, like, I don't want to talk to you anymore, or you just realize you've like, you know, something has slipped and you're like, oh, this person is no longer responding to me, or like, what's happening? And you're like, did we rupture here somehow? You want to really like not add fuel to the fire.
I love that point about allowing ourselves to really feel what we're feeling. So it may be anger, sadness, betrayal. I mean, it could get really big. And really, only until we're able to kind of have those feelings and acknowledge them are we able to then take a step back and really explore and examine kind of what happened. In the heat of the moment, our minds aren't really focused. It's very emotional. Our primitive brains are coming in, and it's helpful to take time, and this can be hours or days or longer, to really think about, okay, what exactly happened? Where did it start to derail? And a real tough thing is, what is my role in how this came about? We all like to think that, it couldn't possibly be us that contributed to this. But of course, in a relationship, it's defined by at least, two people. And so being able to, when you're a little bit calmer, a little bit more level-headed, and you can look at what happened objectively, then you can kind of see, okay, on my side of the street, what was going on and how did I possibly contribute to this? This also helps to maybe not get so defensive when you do reach out to the person and being able to acknowledge and hear what they're saying requires you to be sort of calm and collected, which is hard to do. Close relationships are so much more difficult. We're great at giving sort of suggestions for relationships that don't involve close people, but when it comes to us having to deal with relationships with close people, it's tricky. And so let's say you're reaching out to that person and they agreed, yes, that did not go well, or whatever situation has come up. Maybe even having some understanding of what the outcome of that conversation is going to be. And it doesn't mean that one person's right and one person's wrong. And it doesn't mean that if you validate their feelings, that you agree with how things went down, but encouraging you to at least start a conversation. Or again, if it's really heated, this may be through text, this may be through email, or in some other way. And when some time has passed and both sides have sort of cooled off, that would be the time to reach out and connect and see if you can really talk through what happened.
You made me think of, I'm pretty sure it's a Key and Peele skit where they're texting each other and one is sending texts in a way that are very like positive and kind of like, do you want to hang out? And the other person is reading that text, do you want to hang out? Like wow, what like the tone is really tricky in text and it's a really funny skit. But it to the point of being thoughtful about how you have these conversations when you're trying to repair a rupture or learn what happened and be open. And um, text might be the only way you can do it, but if you can have a conversation of some sort where you're really able to express the tone, you're able to note that and get clearly across that if there's silence, it's because you're open to hearing them and wanting them to share, not that you're not responding or, there's so much that can get lost in different modalities of communication. So being mindful of what works best for you and that person, you want to ask questions without an agenda. And in the way of, people could be listening and going, well, like, Julie, Stacey, of course I have an agenda. I want to know what happened, what went wrong, or can we repair, or what, but like being genuinely curious and open to hearing that person's perspective without trying to make their reality necessarily make sense in your reality just yet. Like, just hear them out. If they are saying, like, this happened and it was really upsetting to me, and your first thought is, I don't understand why that was upsetting. It's fine. You should be able to get over it. Like, don't say that and hold it for a moment and go, okay, this person's experience is that this was upsetting for whatever reasons are true to them. How can I be curious about that and honor that and make space for that? If I'm truly wanting to repair this rupture, we might need to reshape something that looks different in how we interact because I do really value them and want this friendship, want this relationship. And the way they view the world is going to be really important for you to understand. So being like really open to that, but also to appreciate. Because one of the things you want to do is if there's a rupture, you want to learn and grow from that and be able to look back and go like, man, remember we got through that time together and how much we learned and how much we've improved in our communication because of that. Not, oh, wow, we're in this pattern again because we're just not being able to get in each other's mind frames. And that is a skill to work on. And it's something that really shows that you value that other person. It's hard work, but really trying to come to these conversations with a willingness to be like, oh, I don't get your perspective 100%. Not because I don't love you or care about, like, I'm not you. Like, no one's going to get your perspective 100%, even if they feel like they can resonate a lot. Like, they have to really make space, and you have to make space, vice versa, like, to really try to understand where that person's coming from in a non-judgmental way. Be willing to hear that you might have done something that was upsetting.
I want to highlight your point about not trying to do this through text. That is so critical. I've not seen that skit, but I can envision it. And all the time, I mean, who hasn't sort of misinterpreted a text in tone or timing or whatever else? So yes, whenever possible, really try to have a conversation. And maybe, okay, so maybe you text them to say when would be a good time to talk. Like maybe that would be, but you definitely don't want to kind of get into it. Or you maybe leave them a voicemail. That's okay too if they don't pick up because they're upset. And your point about being curious and letting the person know, I want to understand and repair. I don't want to blame. I don't want to say, you're at fault, I'm at fault, you're at 60%, I'm at 40, what? No, the goal is to repair the relationship and learn how did we get there and what role did I have in that? So again, opting for being curious over being right, and that's hard. That's really hard. And using those skills of listening to understand versus listening to respond. We've talked about that in other videos. Using I statements. I was really hurt when, not you hurt me when. It's going to have a very different outcome on the other end. And taking time and really trying to understand their point of view to your point. And you might say things like, how did you see what happened? Or, okay, I understand how you could have felt that way. Doesn't mean you're agreeing that was your intention, but you're demonstrating that you understand, yeah, that could have been upsetting, or that could have been misinterpreted that way. And that gives you an option to then discuss further. Okay, what do we do next? I'm also, though, mindful that that's an ideal situation. You're friends, you have a rupture in the relationship, you both are on the same page with wanting to work it through. You're able to have conversations, perhaps plural, and kind of get back on track and slowly reestablish that trust or whatever was sort of disrupted. But Julie, what do you do when it feels like a one-sided, you want to date them, they don't want to date you sort of thing, and they're not really receptive to wanting to repair things?
Yeah, it's really hard when we would like a relationship or a connection with somebody and that's not where they're at. And I know we have talked about this idea of like a friendship onion and that there are people in your life who are in like the core of your onion, like they're your people. And then like there's, other layers and sometimes there's a mismatch, especially with a rupture. So like say you both had mutually agreed, you're both like level two friends, like you're close to the core, you're not like core, I'm going to talk to you every single day, but you're like you're friends and there's a rupture. And one of you might realize I'm not willing to do the work to try to stay second level friends. Like maybe we need to be like I want us to be in the fifth ring out, or I need you to not be in my onion at all because of whatever reason. And that can feel hard if you're still dedicated to being like, no, we're level two friends, like we're close. Really being compassionate towards yourself in that we cannot control other people. So if somebody is saying, I can't have this relationship with you for whatever reason, you would hope they might be able to give you a reason so you can learn from it and not that you're going to convince them to say, oh, well, I can change and I can, maybe sometimes that could be the case. There are other times though where that person says, even if you did, it's not gonna work for me. And you still being able to take, hopefully, and hear and take and hold on to, well, what was it that wasn't working well? What was my contribution to this that made it not a good fit to keep that relationship going? And how can I then be somebody who learns from that and grows from that and grieves in the moment? Like, lets myself feel all my feelings about it because it's sad. There's a loss. Like, we grieve friends, we grieve relationships in the way that we grieve people who pass away. There's grief there. And so, making space for that and also doing kind of like a reflective learning on well, what really didn't go as well as it could have here? And what do I want to take away from this so that I can do better in future relationships? That I can be maybe checking in more or being mindful not to you fill in the blank. The hard part here is that everybody's different. So in a really great relationship that you value, you would want to be checking in. And that can look like a whole bunch of different ways. I'm not like, Stacey and I aren't sitting here saying you have to have like, quarterly meetings where you're going, okay, what's the status of our friendship right now? I mean, you could, why not? But you don't have to. Just check-ins of, oh, how's it going? Like, do you feel like we're, supporting each other in a healthy way? Do you feel like we're good right now? Like sometimes it's as simple as that. Like, hey, are we good? Yeah. Okay, great. Then move along. Or if you get the sense that something hasn't gone right, checking in. But all that to say, and I think that would tie into my takeaway is repairing a rupture can be a really important, helpful growth thing to do. And it's kind for you, it's kind for the other person. Just as kind is respecting that other person if they say, we had a rupture and we're ruptured. Like, I appreciate that you are wanting to reconnect. This doesn't feel healthy or good for me for maybe it's all for their own reasons. It's nothing to do with you as a whole. Like, being respectful of that. Like, it's hard and it sucks, but being understanding that every person is not going to be your person at all times of your life. So be kind to yourself, make efforts to repair ruptures, especially if you know you did something wrong. Own it. Be open to like making the effort to try to repair, but also be okay as much as it's hard. Be okay knowing that you'll be okay, even if you have to say goodbye to that person.
I really like how you wrapped up all of those main points. And I think to highlight something you said earlier was you can only control what you do and your effort and how you approach things. And you may do everything right. I mean, if you do, let us know because we'd like to learn. But let's say you go in it with an open heart, with curiosity, and it doesn't go well or doesn't get repaired to the extent that you would have hoped. You can't control the outcome, but we can always learn from difficult situations and try to apply it next time.
So if this resonated with you, please share this with somebody that you care about. Also, please like, subscribe, comment, and please leave us suggestions for topics that you'd like us to discuss in future episodes.